Welcome. Today we have Jack Vinijtrongjit, the CEO and co-founder of Saakuru Labs with us. We're very happy to welcome him as our very first guest on the very first Swept podcast. In the past year, Jack has launched Saakuru, a gasless gaming-focused L2 on Oasis that hosts at least 16 games now by my last count. As with many gaming-focused chains, Saakuru is not pigeonholed into just that one niche, however. Anyone can tap into the ecosystem's resources to build and deploy their app. The newest system on Saakuru is the Saakuru Agentic Framework, which Jack and I talked about at length last week in an interview that you can find a write-up for at sweptpod.com. He's an all-around great guy who I just found out today, you're an alumnus of Wisconsin University of Madison. That's pretty close to where I grew up. I had no idea until I just checked on that. But at any rate, he's hustling to make Saakuru a household name in the Web3 gaming and AI space. And we're excited to have you, Jack, with us on this first Swept podcast, along with my good friend and our co-host, June An. June, thanks for being with us. And Jack, an honor, a privilege. Thanks for taking more time to talk with me. You're probably getting tired of me by now.
Well, thanks for having me. I mean, it's always fun talking to you, so it's all good. Yeah, and definitely honored to be the first guest. So let's see how this goes.
Sure, it'll go.
I hope that you say thanks after. Let's see how this goes. Maybe you'll regret it.
So tell us about the Saakuru Agentic Framework.
Okay, so the way we think about this framework is that it needs to be super functional. What we all have seen so far in Web3, they're more of yappers, or they focus on just scraping data from like Twitter or all these different social media sources, also on-chain data. So you can see the whales are dumping on you, all sorts of signals, right? Because typically Web3 people, they just care about how to make money. The approach that we take is slightly different. We want to make sure that you can do something useful with it, right? Whether you use it for create automated workflow for sales, or you can still do all these yapper type, but instead of that, you actually use it to source deals for you. For example, one of the projects we work with, their focus is actually to help people who make a lot of money not have to pay as much tax, right? So now, for example, if you see people posting their wins, technically this agent can go like, hey, by the way, you want to reduce your tax by 80%, right? And then that way they can have people to do, AI to do outreach to all, or cold reply, I guess, right? On Twitter, on LinkedIn, all the different platforms. So that's how we think about it. And then what it does is it dissects the information, and then it will go and prep the summary or the report so that someone else can go and process all these leads. Like that's one example, right? Or on the banking side, for example, every bank, there's a lot of wealth of information, right? Including their own website, their past clients, and the history of what happened in a bank. There's not a single person in that bank, including the CEO himself, who know everything about it, right? So what AI is really good at is processing a lot of data and make sense out of it. So all of a sudden you have the smartest person in the company, which is now not human, it's actually AI, right? So now you can turn that to be your assistant, so that if let's say you have a client coming in and then it's a case where it's so unfamiliar and random, they're like, hey, let me check with this AI. Has this case ever been processed in the past 40 years, right? And how much risk were there? Like, did it go well? And also all sorts of things, right? So these are the things that I think can be very useful. And I would say we're not aiming just for Web3, it's also for Web2. A lot of these cases I just explained, these are all Web2 kind of cases, right? And I really see where Web3 part come in. The very obvious one is actually the use of stablecoin. Because as you have all these agents, eventually you'll have all these, what I call the private agent and the public agent, right? So for the private agent, let's say for the example of a bank, you have all these agents that essentially should not provide information outside, right? Because these are could be clients' data, could be private information about the banks or their proprietary information. So those are the private agents. versus you have public agent, which potentially, let's say, analyze the risk in the subprime market or stocks and all these things. So now all these private agent can pay public agent, let's say 1 cent, to get all this information so that it can be smarter to make on making decision, right? And this is not really anything different from all these different API that are already available. What this does is you have essentially, instead of just talking to code to fetch information, which you also have to provide logic to process that data to make sense of it. Now you actually have two brains connected to each other, right? When the information come back, it also will provide additional context. And then when it comes back to the requester, let's say an AI agent, now I know how to process differently as well. So it really gonna, I think, make a big impact in a lot, actually pretty much every industry, right? Because everything just becomes smarter in general, and it will save a lot of time, resources, and I think probably gonna provide a much better experience for consumer as well.
Nice. So basically, you're talking about having a set of agents that are accessing privileged data and public data, and they're not going to be connected to each other in the example of like a banking. That seems like a pretty obvious use case for something like this within a financial institution. Is Saakuru planning on pitching the agentic framework to financial institutions?
Yes, our primary target right now is a bank, actually.
Do you have any in mind?
I have quite a few, but I cannot mention because I also got, first, I don't want any competitors. Second, some of them I definitely cannot mention, right? So, I mean, what I explained is not exactly, I mean, that's our school of thought, right? I mean, we create more useful agents that will tackle different cases. But what we're trying to do as well is to simplify it, because the easier it is for anyone to launch this agent, right, the more people will use it. And that's why I think the no-code framework is very important, because you can come in, you can experiment. I talked to a few people today, actually, at the event I was at before, and one reason they have not tried using AI as part of the workflow, and this person came from marketing background, is that he doesn't know the code, right? So if coding is no longer required, and you can use like a frame like ours, he can actually increase his productivity by, I don't know, 2, 3 folds, and maybe even more, right? More and more people will be willing to try and understand better. And I think it will really help save them time, and they will have time to actually go think about improving themselves, or maybe bring additional business opportunity as well, right? So again, we focus on more functional agents. It's going to be no code. And also, when people contribute to the framework, I want to make sure that they also get rewarded for it, right? The problem with a lot of this open source framework in Web 2 right now is that you can contribute, but you're not going to get anything about it. All you get is credibility that, hey, you came up with this integration with different system, and people will use it, right? And some of the very well-known framework, people just keep forking it. Some people don't even pay for it, right? I mean, it's open source, it's free for all, but at least some people, I don't know how many people contribute to this GitHub so far, but I think it's over 100, right? So they contribute back, so that way everyone collectively build this framework that's really good. But what I want is to shift the model a little bit so that people can contribute to open source projects, and they also optionally have a way to charge people. And it's going to be more similar to Shopify. Shopify have all these different plugin models, right? Some of them are free, some of them are paid. So if people want to create something that's very useful, and it costs them a lot to develop, right? So they have a way to now plug this module in, and then people can use it, be productive, and also provide revenue back to the creator. Ultimately, that's what I want to do.
Why not go with a model like what Uniswap has done, where they started this, I think, with their V3, where basically there's a moratorium on forking Uniswap V3 for, I think it was 1 year, or maybe it was 2 years, and then after that, it's open source, anyone can use it.
I mean, that model could potentially work as well. I mean, there's a reason Uniswap had that protection, right? Because they want to make sure that there's no other competitor that come in right away and just clone. But that's a bit different. Uniswap v4 is more of what I'm talking about actually, with that hook and stuff, right? Because technically, I mean, you either have all these model, let's say additional integration, right? Or you can have almost like a trick, like event-based kind of workflow, where if this happened, then something else will happen, right? So people can go and create all the different models. But the core framework itself, I think eventually we will open source it, and we already will start off with an open source project to help us, move along faster, right? So you don't have to reinvent the wheel on the structure. We just want to change the business model a little bit.
Do you have any front end for this yet that people can check out?
I mean, we have the front end internally, and it's like password protected right now to get into the framework. Like yesterday, I launched 3 agents, just to test things out. One of them is actually, I don't know if I actually should talk about this. I think this should be anonymous.
Hey, if it's live, go ahead and.
But it's actually a very interesting one, and it actually again started off from a joke, right? I mean, how I think I explained before, right? How Dr. Cole started off as me joking about people coping about not making as much money as their friend. They sold early, they lost money, right? This one also started off as a different joke, and I think, eventually, I think people figure out which one it is, but I don't want to go in too much into this one. But yeah, it's actually an interesting concept where when people interact with it, they will get quite a lot of useful information, actually. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, so basically it's in use now. You're
Yeah.
anonymously running an agent. And this Dr. Cope thing, we talked about that too, like a psychologically trained AI agent that is meant to train other agents, essentially, because that's what I got from it, to be essentially more human. And at least within the use case of a game, you have NPCs that don't remember that you beat them up or anything like that. But
Yeah.
Dr. Cope can make any number of different NPCs in the game that are AI agents have a memory of the way that you as the player have interacted with them before and have consequences for the outcome of the game.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually that part is a little bit different. I think I may have not explained it clearly. So the part that gonna help with memory management is that it's actually part of the agentic framework itself, right? What Dr. Cope does is actually provide almost like the moral compass in a way. So typically with all these agentic framework or LLM, right, there's essentially a layer filter. When the data come in, it goes through this layer. And when the data go out, it goes through this layer to make sure that it act ethically in a way. The problem that is everyone doing their own thing, right? So now you don't really have that kind of like master data or like kind of master knowledge wealth on this part. What we're trying to do there is to abstract that out from the traditional model and framework and have it sit outside. So now all of a sudden you have this third-party consultant you can consult with all the time on any topic related to ethic, emotion, how to deal with human, how to deal with other AI, for example, right? Because that way, I feel like it's more scalable. Because I mean, we got to the path where, back in the early 2000s, for example, right? Everything started to become more modular with the service-oriented architecture. And somehow eventually we went to vertically integrated solution because I think mainly because of Apple, right? So a lot of these AI solutions right now are kind of like that. Everything is all bundled together and you can't separate them. You cannot just use part of it, right? So the way I see things, that if it needs to evolve fast, everything needs to be modular again. And there'll be all these different specialized agents or modules that can help other agents improve themselves, right? That's how I see it. And that's why I think separating out the ethic part could be beneficial as well. And I verified this with an AI researcher who she was like, how come no one did this? So that was a good thing.
So what games are you all playing these days? I just started playing Spider-Man 2 for PC. I know it's kind of old, but it's new for me because I don't have a PlayStation. What are you guys playing?
I play go long or go short.
That's that's a very dangerous game. What about any non or low stakes games?
I guess I don't know. Everything seems pretty sticky these days. I'm getting. I'm playing Civilization 7 that just came out. Got the Founders Edition. I'm kind of regretting it because it's not a full complete game, apparently. I mean, the game itself does not feel complete.
Yeah.
Like
Okay. Well,
with I mean like bugs and all
yeah,
that.
I mean these days they release games like this, right? Because they know they
Yeah.
can like do live update, that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. So, but yeah, I think that the AR part of that game is going to be interesting. I don't know how
Yeah,
many
I
people
saw
can use it,
that.
but it looks cool.
It's like a board game, live board
Yeah.
game of Civilization. It's Dungeon Master's Dream, kind of.
I don't know anything about that. Tell me about it.
Civilization is you know Civilization the
I know
game.
that. I don't know about the AI
They
part.
came out the VR one. They're coming out with the VR one. So
Oh.
basically,
cool.
it's very interactive in a way that you have this virtual moving
On your tabletop.
board game in front of you.
Jack, what about you? Are you into like any Web3 games?
I mean, right now I'm waiting for our Project W to come out. So Alpha, I think should be. I mean, I think it might be delayed a bit now, probably until March or something. But they have a big, like they co-develop this with a big partner now, which I cannot mention the name yet. But it's one of the Web2 giants basically. So it should be quite good. Like those guys are very, very good at VFX and like the shader and stuff. So I think it will look really good.
Like casual gaming, or AAA game, or
what's that?
The type of studio, the Web2 studio, is it like a mobile gaming, casual gaming type of studio?
No, this is like the hardcore like game. Shooter games and stuff.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, a lot. I mean, there's no way you can guess this name. So I may have actually told you at some point, but yeah. But yeah, I mean, so that's one game, and then I mean we have a few more games that we've been talking to as well. But yeah, and on the Web2 side, I mean, I've been testing out. What I'm trying to figure out when I play games these days is actually the logic, right? Like game like Blatro, for example. I'm trying to figure out how to make it as addictive as that game, right? And apply the same logic into other games and also with fan engagement and stuff. Because right now I'm doing a lot of design work for fan engagement as well for like sports team. And today another one came in, which is one of the racing team. That now I have to also figure that out. So learning from games is actually quite interesting. Like how to engage people, how to like make them feel like they want to spend money and stuff.
Civilization, the first one was on DOS, wasn't it? It wasn't even on Windows.
Yes, you run it on DOS.
That's how old it is.
So how do you think that AI can improve games, like either Web3? I think that maybe we should talk first about Web3 and then maybe expand it to Web2 games.
I mean,
also
I think
on the AI agent side, how does that play on the Saakuru Labs and the protocol as well?
So that's the part that we actually been trying to figure out, because I mean the business model make a lot of sense on the Web2 side, right? So I mean we focus heavily on revenue first while we really trying to get the flywheel going for the token itself in this framework. And I think we'll figure it out hopefully sometime soon. But if we have really good product, I mean, it's just a matter of figuring out like how it's gonna fit in, right? But we like internally, we kind of enforce everyone to use AI for everything now, right? For I mean, literally writing code, like managing like workflow for like marketing, BD. I'm looking to like train everyone up to just completely switch.
Makes sense. It's also just part of the training as well.
Yeah, because what I want, right, and like the way I see our organization is I want everyone to be able to think alongside and help suggest and help me come up with products, right? Because I mean, otherwise it just doesn't work. It doesn't scale. Like I can't come up with new ideas all the time. And like fortunately we have people like Marius who just been coming up with like really good ideas, and then we just need to frame it in such a way that we can actually make it a business, right?
Mhm.
So by having everyone using AI to do everything from like writing offers to automate the sales process and all these things, it make them like, oh, this actually could be improved a little bit here and there, right? And then that's where we figure out how to like make them modular, how to figure out how to monetize them and all those things. Because if we are struggling with something, somebody else somewhere is also struggling with that, right? And again, like I said, we are a problem solver, so we as long like as my we want to run as many problems as possible so that we understand them and we can figure out how to make them how to productize them essentially.
Now, from a gamer's perspective, how does deploying AI agents into a game make a game better or make the gameplay experience better?
There's definitely quite a few areas, right? And I think last time when we talked, I was talking about the Nemesis system, where I mean, the Nemesis system is a kind of patented mechanism by Warner, where if you face the same boss again, or like after you beat the boss, let's say the last time you beat the boss, you use fire. Next time, the boss will come with a fireproof armor, right? So you have to react differently to that. Or like in Metal Gear Solid, I think Metal Gear Solid 4, if you go into this base trying to loot the base, and last time you snipe and kill all the soldiers, next time they all will have night vision goggle, so they cannot snipe them anymore, right? Things like that. I think these are what make games more replayable and more enjoyable, right? Because you really have to think and be smart about how you play as well. Otherwise, you keep like if you play games like Genshin Impact and you have to like grind to get 99 item of something, at least if it's different every time, then you probably enjoy it, right? So AI can come in many different ways, and one way is to again make the environment more interactive, make the NPC or the monsters become more interactive and also can change. And the bosses could become harder and harder as you keep playing, right? So and even just how you interact with NPC as well. I mean last time we talked about how shopkeeper, right? You can go keep looting the store forever, and they like, hey, I'll keep selling stuff anyway, right? So now you might have to treat the shopkeeper a little bit differently. You have to be nicer. Then they might actually give you like special item, or if you don't treat them nicely, they just shoot you, right? Things like that. And so, and there was also an experiment by Square Enix, like I think 2 maybe 3 years ago now, that game completely flopped. So they launched this free-to-play game on, I think it was on Steam, and basically there's no instruction. The only way you can get any kind of like clue is to talk to the NPC, but there's no control. You can only talk or type. I think I don't remember, it was just talk or type. So if you don't know how to ask, then I mean you have to figure out. But the thing is, even though you ask the question correctly, it doesn't give you the correct answer sometimes. For example, there's one case where you're supposed to go down to the lake to get an item. For some people, it took them 9 attempts. Some people never actually got the answer, never got the clue, and that completely failed, right? And if you take a look at the review, it's like the worst possible like review for Square Enix. It was like below 1 star, right? But that was pre-LLM. So now with all this ChatGPT, with natural language processing became much better, right? That game now, if they go and redo it, it actually could be a very good game.
So we could see some maybe future updates on that one.
Yeah, right. So what I mean by this is that now you can have different kind of experience, right? Different input to the game. It's not controller, right? Now you can actually talk to NPC and then it will guide you through the game. So it becomes much more interactive. It potentially also more enjoyable for people who are not like hardcore gamers, because they're like, hey, I love puzzle, right? I don't have anyone to play with. Now I can go into this virtual world, talk to NPC, and then have a different experience. So I think with advancement of AI, it will introduce a lot of different types of interaction, potentially even new genre, right? Now there are people who are more brainiac or like more logical. They might even want to train AI to compete with other AIs, right? And there's some people who are a little bit against that because they're like, hey, games are not really supposed to be for AI, right? It's for human to enjoy and stuff. But if people enjoy training AI to compete with other AI, what's wrong with that, right? So now that could be another way for you to play video games.
That sounds like another way of making money.
Just yeah, but the problem there is the tokenomics better work, and I don't think it will last. Like if you have all these agents, everyone have an agent to go raid a Web3 game, it will die within an hour or less.
All you're trying to do is just extract all the time anyway.
Yeah.
There's those gaming farms. Like I saw that with sheets, someone with an entire wall of phones somewhere in South.
Oh yeah. People making banks. I mean, we also started from Axie as well, right? I don't know, the history, but at one point we had close to 3,000 scholars, I think. And if the token were to sustain the price, our run rate was like 12 million a year.
Nice.
In profit.
Yeah, but it's not always.
Axie was like
that one.
$100. Didn't it peak at like $160? The peak
something like that. It was crazy. When we first started, AXS was $1, and it just went crazy.
Yeah, how much Jiho how many Axis did Jiho give you, Brian? To basically share with the students?
I was doing like basically an Axie Infinity Club. And I said, yeah, I'm going to do this thing. He gave me something like 30 or 40 Axies from his wallet. Yeah, that was nice.
Yeah, that was when it wasn't worth anything at all.
Yeah, you know what? I think I remember you saying that you were an Axie Infinity scholar.
We help people make a lot of money. I mean, we started up to trying to help people, right? And I think we had something like 58% of our guild members were unemployed. And then I think total of close to about 75 or 80% is either unemployed or they have family in the hospital, right? So we were actively recruiting people so that we can help them financially. That's how and that spread like wildfire. Like the first 3 weeks before I got involved, we had 150 people, and then I helped them with the logic of how to like optimize breeding and stuff. And then 4 weeks later, we were at 1,500, right? Wow. So I had to figure the math. And I remember there was one night I was like, shit, like this is a Ponzi scheme, so you have to run fast. And I figured out that we need $1 million right now to expand. So me and my co-founder we're talking until like 4 a.m. my time, I think, and we're like, okay, let's figure out who we can raise this from. So within 14 hours, we had $1 million in the bank account.
That's hustling, man. And how much of that was from raising money doing Axie Infinity, or was it from actual raising?
It was literally just for Axie. That was even before I figured out 4 weeks later that we need to build a tool to run all this thing, because the guys were not sleeping or eating, but because there were no tooling for paying out to the scores, right? And when you have 1,500, first you have to train them, teach them to use Binance account, and then you have to go one by one, wallet by wallet to withdraw, and then bridge over. It was such a mess. Because I got on a call with the guys, and they look like a mess. They haven't showered, they haven't eaten, and you can tell they were all really, really tired. So for 1,500 people paying out manually, with 8 of them, it was taking 3 days if they don't work nonstop.
That's not scalable.
Yeah, and that's how we kind of started. That's why we were after that we raised a bigger round to build all the tools and stuff.
Nice.
I'm looking at a chart right now. I was looking this up while you were talking, that on Dapp Radar, so a year ago today, it was 1.5 million weekly users. And now there are 7 million.
It's number of bots, actually.
Yeah, definitely number of bots.
Yeah, it's not
For
it's
the
not real
airdrop.
user.
Airdrop.
Like the only chain that I actually would believe have like Web3 users are actually Ronin. If you talk about gaming, like even for our side, right? Majority of our users are Web2 users because we focus on revenue, which means you cannot target Web3 user. Like on Ronin, like on Pixel, for example, I think the average revenue per user is like 70 cents. All the games are now sharing they are like 60 to 150. Right? The reason some of the game did not go to Ronin was because they know they will never get the enough revenue to actually sustain. And for us, we actually also have to work with a bunch of different partners to, and some of them, like we go to traditional publishers, and many of them are actually open to work with Web3 games as well. Unless it's in certain region like China and Korea, then you need to strip them out.
Yeah.
Right.
And I believe the major premise of Web3 games was that because it's games, it will be a specific area where they'll onboard the most users to Web3. You know, that was the premise.
Yeah, but I mean, it will happen, but it will happen in the background to the point where users don't even know it's Web3 games.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. Right.
I think I mean that I can see. If you ask user to have to go create a wallet and all these things, that never gonna happen.
No.
Right? Because first of all, they'll be like, okay, so now I have to manage these seed phrases. I don't feel safe. I'm just gonna leave.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
So
some
I
people
think
say like, you know, they say, oh yeah, use Google login. You know, those like Web3 auth kind
Yeah.
of thing where you link your Google login and it creates a wallet for you. Except that a lot of gamers, especially like mobile gamers, they forget their like Google accounts anyway. You know, they always
and
make
then they
it.
also get hit by gas fee. Right. I mean,
Yeah.
even though it's easy to create wallet, but then you still need gas fee. And that's why it's much easier for us. I mean, even like other UA cases, because we're gasless, we have like major advantage. Like
Mhm.
I had an AMA earlier with Dr. Durian, with Bobby, right? So I was just like giving an example on why we have a clear advantage because like some people who just want to invest $1, right? And
Yeah.
they earn 20 cents per year, which is great. It's 20%. But
Mhm.
because of the gas fee, most of your whatever you earn is gone. Like
Yeah.
half the time you can't even pay for the gas fee with 20 cents. So with a blockchain like ours can solve that kind of problem with all these super micro transaction,
Mhm.
which people would do anyway. Because I mean, if you take a look at the percentage yield, it's great. When
Yeah.
right. So and yeah, I think in gaming is one of those areas that you will end up having to either subsidize the gas fee or you just make it gasless.
So I know your Saakuru Labs protocol is gasless, of course.
Yeah.
You know, primarily because of those, especially like micro transactions that happen a lot of times in the background when it's a Web3 games. So how does Saakuru Labs token SKR work then? How
I
does
mean,
that work on the gasless protocol?
so I mean, I guess right now the ultimate utility of the token in a way is tied to our revenue, right? Because when it's gasless, then you have no revenue at all from gas fee, and even if you're on very very low gas chain, also the revenue won't be that high unless you have massive volume, which means you actually have to attract a lot of bots to come in and do a lot of DeFi activities, right? So the unfortunate part so far is that, I mean, games have been delaying, PC's been delaying, and that's why we don't have that much revenue on chain right now. And that's why, I mean, that translates to token price as well, in a way, right? So, and I mean, we learned this a hard way, and another chain as well, which I'm not gonna mention the name, they also figured this out quickly. They haven't launched that token yet, but they came up with the same conclusion that just gas fee alone, it just doesn't work. So they also flipping the model to work on rev share basis for games, right? Because game, if it really takes off, I mean, certain game can make like up to like over $1 billion, right? And they might only like generate, I don't know, $100,000 worth of gas fee. So then we're not really gonna be able to enjoy the upside with them, even though we help them design, help support infrastructure, everything, right? So we also switch over to rev share.
Okay.
And it's not just for game, even for we also been working on tokenizing gold, for example. For that case, we also get rev share.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things that's changing right now, and we're just rolling things out. But yeah, I mean, rev share almost across the board actually. Even with the things with the data durian, we in the middle of discussion right now on like how it's gonna work, but that also will be rev share.
I see. Will that ever tie up with your agentic framework and AI?
It will definitely tie into that. I mean, people have been asking us to do it similar to virtual, where it will be paired with all these agent token. Of course, for the Web3 agents, we can do that, but again, we're serving Web2 as well, right? So how do we make that work? So, but at the very least, if it's a significant amount of revenue, we can always do buyback, right? So that's that one. And then, yeah, we still like heavily discussing internally right now on how that's gonna work.
Hear that, Brian? They said they'll do a buyback and pump the token 100x. All right.
The buyback has been in the work, has been part of the plan for a while, though, I thought, the SKR buyback.
Yeah, I mean, we actually did 2 buybacks so far, but they were kind of insignificant, right? Total was like 27,000. Yeah, I mean, we definitely need to get the revenue up, right? And our goal is to get to break even this quarter and become profitable next quarter. That's basically the goal.
How much is break even?
I mean, it really depends actually. Now that we also focus on AI, there's additional costs. I mean, it's actually not that much in a way. It's doable. It's doable.
Got it. This quarter.
Yeah, this quarter, I think if we close 3 or 4 more deals, everyone's talking about using AI, and half the time they don't know how to. So lots of opportunities.
Yeah. I don't think you can leave the AI out of discussion, because in a way they are literally replacing humans, and all the businesses are requiring humans or AI resources.
That's why I'm curious about how that deal flow is working. Like, is it a value add that you're coming up front with, or is it apps are saying we need AI now?
It's 2 ways, right? Again, like there's 2 types. So ones that already know what they want, and one that have no idea what they want, right? So it's like a long road of, actually it's not going to be that long. Like I mean, I've been teaching my dad and my aunt who are in their 70s to use ChatGPT, right? And the moment they use it for literally everything. My aunt doesn't even book her hotel herself anymore. She's actually using ChatGPT, right?
Wow.
So it's all about putting the power in people's hands, and that's why I think access is very important. And with all the AI, application that's free to use, like literally from the very first prompt, they were like, "Oh wow, how come I never use this?"
Yeah, I mean, technically, Brian, like we shouldn't even be on this podcast, and Jack shouldn't be even on a podcast, because we could just
send out
with the virtual character, just have it and then record ourselves. You know, why are we even doing this manually?
Eventually, there will be a lot of automation at media. There will be. Yeah,
even the views, the people who view it is going to be AI agents. It's not even going to be real people. They're just AI agents going to summarize, and if it's any relevant to the actual user, they'll tell them. You know, like we're not even creating this for actual viewers. We're creating this for the sake of the data.
Yeah, I mean the cost for AI agent in Web2, I think, gonna start coming down significantly. Right, about actually last year, for example, I was told by one of our advisors that people were charging $100,000 per agent in Web2.
Oh wow!
Right, but because now there's all this open source framework, I think it will start to come down significantly. I think it'll be more in the hundreds.
You can have a really crappy front end, and I've seen mostly crappy front ends for these AI agents or any type of AI integration. It's the data part and the funnel, essentially, of getting the data into whatever it is that you're trying to use the AI for, essentially.
Yeah.
So you're paying mostly for the data. That's the most expensive thing. And even for really basic stuff, it's like, we'll set it up for you and we'll give you our crappy front end, but you still have to pay for the APIs, for the stuff, for the data you want. that'll be $10,000 for the integrations. It's like, what, $10,000? And that's per month.
I
Per
mean,
month.
per month. Okay.
Per month.
Jack said creation of it in the beginning was 100,000. So
Enterprise software is like that, right? I remember, so I came from this company called TIPCO, and one of the most expensive software was for MDM, the master data management. And we were charging per CPU. It was $500,000 per CPU.
wow.
So if
thing
you
is,
have full call, it's $2 million.
The crazy thing is the enterprises, like, they'll just pay it.
In fairness, like at some point, those people will get fired because I mean there has to be some kind of like ROI at some point, right?
Yeah.
So like I was telling some people or someone earlier, I mean if you spend $100,000 on an agent, you better get return in like $1 million, right? It save time, money somewhere here and there, or help bring in more deals. Because these days there's so many open source software that I mean all you have to do is go watch YouTube on how to set it up.
Yeah.
Right, but there are all these lazy people who, like, I mean, some people also don't know how to get started. But once they do, they will like, oh shit, I can do all these things, and they go wow with it. Right. The problem there is, I mean, when they do all these things, the problem then becomes scalability. Because if you have 100 people come up with the same logic and you don't optimize it so that they all, instead of them all input the data, right, and or use it, you have to like potentially centralize it or using a swarm of agent, right? You need to know what you already have so that you can reuse what you have instead of keep doing the same logic, because it will kill the backend and stuff, right? So that's when you need to have like professional come in. So that's when consultant really makes sense, because you keep the tool, everyone familiar with it, they all do their own thing, and now it no longer runs because there's not enough resources, right? Or they pay too much. Then someone will come in to optimize. That will always happen.
Yep.
Yeah, but we actually trying to make sure that I mean, technically we allow them to do that, then we can make more money, but we will help them optimize it. Right? That one part of it is that there should be an AI agent that will audit what the hell you're doing, right? And then let's say you're a manager and you work with 10 people in your team, and they go and create all these different AI automation logic, and also with a bunch of agents. You should have an agent that go and review and say, hey, looks like 75% of the logic are just duplicate, right? And if AI can code by itself or like develop this by themselves, like what we're trying to do with AI Swarm, technically it should be able to go and optimize it. So the next day when you come in as an employee, it's like, oh, I built the flow this way, but now this model got changed because it's a common one across all that 7 other people did it, right? And then you have an option. Do you want to revert it because maybe you were just halfway done and you want to customize it other ways, right? So these are the things that I think eventually will be possible. And technically, you should be able to just like word out the objectives of this application or this flow, and it just do it for you.
Yeah,
So,
Nansen has stuff like that, and Kaito is working on those types of alerts, but they're all categorical, and like a user has to set them user by user basis or the defaults on the system. The AI enhances it a lot, like where to the point where you don't need to set preferences as much. It can detect what you're going to be looking for anyway by just scanning your wallet and saying, this guy normally trades meme coins on this chain, and they usually trade within this time frame of these types of events on social media or on chain anywhere else. So it's able to make those inferences and then generate insights for a trader just based on that. I mean, it took Nansen how many years to get their thing right? I don't even think it's perfect yet, although their product offering is fine. Kaito's still working on it. It's tough to do that. I mean, it's really hard.
Technically, it's not that hard. The hard part is actually to, I mean, extract all this data from blockchain, right? Because it requires so much information, and if you want to make it for this purpose, it requires even more information. I mean, we had a product like this before, where we literally index every goddamn thing that's on chain and off chain together, but the data storage balloon, and if we need to re-index it, it's even worse because blockchain is stupid. Like you can only query by block. You can't even go and find information unless you know which block it's sitting in, right? So then I mean, at one point, we even trying to come with a product where we reselling raw data, so you don't have to go and query against all these RPC nodes again, right? I mean, there's yeah, I mean it's quite a mess, and if you're able to categorize data properly, then you have the most powerful AI, right? And that's what the web is working with Nebula AI as well. They I think indexing 29 chains right now, and then you can do all this intelligent, and again, it can help enrich the data, provide more context. But in the end, you still need to know, like, and there are specific cases that I was solving that I don't know if people will need this. For example, Chinese New Year, right? Chinese New Year is celebrated the same day everywhere in the world, but it's in different time zone. So if you want to analyze data across Chinese New Year, you technically need to do a bunch of tags, right? And then you need to know which time zone, and then you, let's say you want to analyze how many people actually purchase an NFT that's red during Chinese New Year, right? Most of the engine right now, including Nansen, cannot do this because they don't index at the attribute level for NFT for every transaction, every event happening on chain. We were doing that at I mean, the storage just balloon, and because we didn't really see the demands for it, we actually ended up scrapping the product.
Also, like understanding what kind of data you actually need to keep and study to bring, certain insights for the demand there actually is for the market as well.
Yeah, when the problem is when you're not doing it domain specific, you end up storing absolutely everything because you have to be generic, and then you have to store whatever you think you can store, right? Which is not practical. But when you do a case where, let's say, I mean, the reason OpenSea is able to do the filter what they have on the left side is because it's very specific to that need, right? The approach that we went was we just index everything, whatever we can find, we index them, and we try to optimize them already. And I mean, if we raised some $100 million, we would not have had an issue, but we didn't, right?
Yeah, and that's where OpenAI is spending out there $6 billion on the chips and the storage to train their. All right, well, you guys, I think that we can call it a podcast. Jack, thanks so much for giving us our inaugural podcast. I think it was a great conversation. Learned a lot about what Saakuru is up to, about gaming, and a lot of insights about how AI works, like in general, in a general sense. And June, did you have anything else to add?
No, I'm hoping that Jack can create us an AI agent where he can automatically edit this podcast for us.
Yeah.
Pretty sure that's possible.
Nice. Yeah, edit video.
We don't have to do any work. Well, Brian doesn't have to do any work. I just stay here and talk, and I don't do anything. I don't even know what we were going to talk about today. So cool.
All right. Well, Jack, thanks again. Hope to have you on again sometime, and we'll be in touch.
Well, we'll see you next week, actually.
In Hong Kong. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'll see you next week.